Okay, so shall I start off then, Janice?
Yes, go ahead, Mike. Yes.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about the BioBlitz, but in fact, oops, if you
Sorry,
go
I'm going a bit too fast. Sorry about that.
You know, so the idea was that there's an iSpot is being used for a BioBlitz associated with the conference. This started on the 24th of October and is running till the 26th of November. And if we go on to the first slide, Janice, so this is being run in iSpot projects. And I'll actually be talking about all the observations from iSpot in this period, just to give everyone a chance to fill in their last week's worth of BioBlitz data. And in iSpot, the projects feature is used to gather together observations. So you make an observation, anyone can use projects. You set a project up. You can just draw a polygon for whatever area you want. Then you can set a number of filters, so a date range, as we've done here. It can be taxon related, can be habitat related, using various tags, as we have here with the NBN Conference 20 tag. Users, for specific users, whether they're identified or not. These can be set up by anybody, and they can be used for BioBlitzes, as we have here. And the iSpot users find these useful for a whole range of things. In particular, there's a couple of projects shown on this page here. There's ones with little marks besides, where people are using them to tidy up old observations, which have no identifications, or look at observations in another way. If we move on to the next one. So, Janice, if you move, yeah, okay. So here is here are the observations in this time period. So this is all the iSpot observations, not just the BioBlitz ones. In this time, 24th of October to the 11th of so 16th to 11th, there's about 2,000 observations. The map shows that they're all over the UK, basically, of many different taxonomic groups. Although, interestingly, the biggest chunk are of fungi and lichens. Not necessarily surprising at this time of year, but this pie chart will be quite different at other times of year. So it's not quite half, nearly half are of fungi. The next biggest chunk are of invertebrates, and then plants. Okay, if we move on to the next one. So this next one shows, this is the top 25 species, and 23 of the 25 are actually fungi. Again, not particularly surprising at this time of year, but if you look at the actual species, well, I don't think you can see them on the screen, but the top species are things like sulfur tuft, Armillaria melia, honey fungus. So they always turn out to be the top species found at this time of year. And this year particularly, there was an awful lot of fly agaric, Amanita muscaria. I noticed myself particularly, but many other people reported this year that there was huge amounts of this particular species. And in the top 25, there were only two things other than fungi. There was ivy and a garden spider. One other thing is that there were almost no garden birds recorded in this period either, which is quite unusual, because I'm sure that there were still some garden birds that come into feeders and things, but we saw almost none. So if you move on to the next one. Okay, this looks at the habitats. And again, as I've said, it's mainly fungi. So the biggest habitat there is woodland, which is perhaps not surprising. And second one is gardens and parks. So both these habitats have lots of fungi, and so it's not necessarily surprising that those are particularly large at this time of year. But there is possibly a COVID-19 effect coming in here. Many people have commented on the forum and elsewhere that there are lots of people in the countryside now. This year people have just been out in the countryside, and often they are in woodlands and gardens and parks. And if we compare the figures for these two habitats for this exact time period last year, those figures are indeed higher. And some of the ones that are lower this year are things like coastal and grassland. So people aren't necessarily travelling so far. They're not necessarily going to the coast. Okay, if we move on to the last of my three, this one here. So in lockdown, people are looking at in their local area a lot more. This is a local area to Milton Keynes, which is close to Milton Keynes. You can see there's a whole bunch. You can zoom in here and look at all the dots. So I put the species names there if you're interested. But even in the areas close to your home, there may be very interesting species to spot. So this species here is it's a fungus-eating fungus. We don't have many fungi today. So this you're looking at the underside of a mushroom here, and instead of gills, you can see, well, you can't really see, but there are tiny little dots, and those are the ends of the fruiting bodies of this Hyphomyces mushroom or species of fungus, which is eating the Lactarius fungus. And this was extremely common in one of the sites. There were hundreds of fruiting bodies affected by this fungus, which was eating the other one. And it's not clear which species this is. And all the Hyphomyces on NBN are quite uncommon, except there's one that eats Boletus, but most of the others are. And is this something? Is this a new species to Britain? Is it not? I mean, there's even in your local area, you can find these very interesting taxa, and it's not some tiny little thing you wouldn't spot. It is really easy to see. Okay, so I'll let you let Janice carry on.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So we wanted to show you what you can do with iSpot now, and that's why we had the BioBlitz, and we're really glad that some people participated. We know that given the weather and everything, some people didn't get to participate. So we have actually extended the timeline. So if you have any observations that you've gathered between the dates of the 25th of October up to the end of the 25th of November, you can still add them. And we'll hopefully be able to do a little bit more analysis and share that on the NBN website. But what we also wanted to do was to give you a snapshot of what's been happening with iSpot and in terms of new projects, new things that are coming on board, and some of the things that you can hopefully get involved with over the coming months and years. So this sort of shows the sort of rough plan we have for iSpot, focusing on 3 core areas: data and research. And key for this at the moment is rebuilding our species dictionary. So in the next few months, hopefully, you'll be able to see better relationships with the taxon and species in terms of the identification process within iSpot, because we're upgrading our species dictionaries. Long overdue, definitely, but definitely coming on board soon. Alongside this is, of course, how we contribute to teaching and learning, not only with our own courses, but with other things built in. And in terms of the collaborations and new partnerships, excitingly, we have 2 brand new projects that we're working on now. One is just a year old, which is a European project, and another one, which is a NERC-funded project, just started a month ago. So I'm just going to give you a brief a quick snapshot through these, so you can see what some of the plans are coming on board. So Cost for Cloud is a European project funded by On the Horizon 2020. What this project seeks to do, it seeks to look at some of the biggest challenges of citizen science, i.e. the quantity and quality of data, as well as how we can maintain the different services that collect this data. These are called citizen observatories, and these include projects like iSpot and a few more that I'll tell you about shortly. And what they aim to do is to monitor, to provide monitoring systems where you can observe the environment using various applications, and the scale can be varied over different time periods. The key thing with Cost for Cloud is that it includes 4 of the largest citizen observatories in Europe. This includes iSpot, PlantNet, which some of you probably are familiar with, Natchosphère, which is based in Spain, and Art Portalen, which is based in Sweden. And PlantNet is French, but of course it is quite global. And interestingly, we're trying to look at how we can look at different technologies and build these services in ways that can address these challenges. So we're looking at focusing on water through one project called Freshwater Watch. We're looking at and another one called Kiduna. We're looking at air and the effects of odor pollution, and we're also looking at particulate matter and aerosols. So you can see that the scope is quite wide. But what we're trying to do with all of this, the whole aim is to develop 10 services which can improve what citizen observatories like iSpot in terms of the biodiversity ones can do and what the environmental quality ones can do. And it's to make sure that there's some interoperability between the biodiversity ones and the environmental ones to see how we can co-design and standardize some of these services to meet the needs across Europe. So how can you get involved? We're trying to get people involved in the co-design to create in the development of these services, to give us advice and support, and to test. So if you are interested, there's a link there. We'll be sharing this further for you to get involved, to share, to see how you can get involved with these various groups and be part of this overall co-design process, because that's what we want to do. We want to create these services that can meet the needs across Europe, meet the needs of recorders like yourself in terms of creating services that can help to advance and make the things that you do a little bit easier in terms of being able to share information with others across Europe in quite collaborative ways. So the other project is Decide. You probably heard about this. It's a brand new project funded by NERC. And what we're trying to do with this, we understand the various challenges in terms of how the type of information, we need more records, but we also need this to be more accessible. So what we're trying to do with this, we're looking at how we can create more comprehensive models that can demonstrate species distribution and habitat quality and show the links between this. The overall aim, to improve the types of models that we can use for decision makers. That is actually putting recorders' motivations at the heart of the process. So what we're trying to do with this initially is focus on butterflies, moths, and grasshoppers. We're going to map specific areas and use specific models to get people involved. So what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months, we'll be talking to different groups, stakeholder groups, and the first stage to build some of these basic services, and then it will be opened up more widely to others. Just to show you a snapshot of the partnership, it involves iSpot with the OU. It's actually led by CEH and involves this wide range of partners and skill sets that you can see here. So lots more to share. At the top there is the URL. That's a brand new website that's just been set up by CEH. So you can jot that down and look at that and learn more. And I'll stop there. Thank you.